For podcasters or audio producers from a home setup or a semi-pro, we've got another great product for you here, the Tascam Mixcast 4, which takes everything we've learned about what podcasters need, puts it into a whole new form factor with some very special features. Now, I get that this is a very niche product, right? There's not a lot of people that need to spend $1,000 on an audio mixer with hotkey buttons for sounds. But I think you're underestimating how big podcasting is right now. So, with that away, let's acknowledge the elephant in the room. Hardly an elephant, it's a gorgeous beast, the RODEcaster Pro. Now, I got to say, this thing utterly revolutionized podcasting. In my mind, it's changed everything. It changes the way I podcast because I take it with me. It is my go-to. It ensures that I have the best quality audio I can have. I've got all my stings and sounds. I can actually kind of pre-produce a lot of what I do. And when I first reviewed this, I copped a lot of criticism. Rode copped a lot of criticism because it didn't have multi-track and all these other things. I still don't think you need that because I am from an old school radio world where it's live and you've got these faders for a reason. If that person over there is about to cough, fade them down. Hit the mute button. You've got control. But if you're more of a set and forget kind of person, I get that you might want to multi-track record and you might want to then do some post-track editing. Good luck to you. It's not how I operate. But that now has a huge update. It does all those things and many, many more. You've now got multiple sound pads. They've really improved that product over time. Now, right now, looking at online, you can get these for about $830, $899 broadly, but the retail price is $949. The Tascam Mixcast 4, retail price more like $1049, and the current retail price about $899. So you're paying a little bit more for the Tascam, which I think is fascinating because Tascam is probably a as big a brand in audio video as Rode. Probably Rode excels more in the microphone and therefore video production space, but they've pushed heavy into this audio space, frankly, into Tascam's territory. Now, at a glance, this looks very similar. Very much learning from RODEcaster, I would say. You've got the same number of inputs and outputs. 4 microphones, USB from your computer, TRRS for your phone if you want, Bluetooth for your phone if you want, and your sound pads here. You've got a full screen LCD display, touchscreen that gives you your levels as they're happening live in real time. You've got your record button, but you've also got a mark button, which is a on-screen button on the RODEcaster, and a big fat stop button. Now, I'll get into the broad details in a minute, but let me just address a few things that I've noticed in my use of the Tascam for my last 2 weeks worth of podcasting. When you hit stop, you can get a confirmation, which is great. You can also rename the file on the screen. And I got to tell you, for me, so I don't want to, spoil the illusion of a talkback show that I do in EFTM, but those callers that I have in my podcast, I record them over the course of a couple of hours, individual calls, and then I put them all together in the post edit very easily. Just drag and drop, sit them back to back. With this, I can actually name the caller. So I can say that was David, that was Rob, that was Matt. I can actually name the callers, which actually just makes it easier for me to produce. It's not a deal breaker for me not to have file names, but it's a huge advantage when you can name an interview and ensure that you never lose that audio. That's cool. But most importantly for me, the other big deal here is while I've got my home screen on here, I can see the levels, but I can also see my hotkeys labels. So I can see the names of the stings. So I know straight up that is my song, right? I know what that is. I can look at it. And if I'm on the wrong page, you're on the wrong show, that can be a deal breaker. You got to go back and edit. So that's cool. That's very, very cool. From a microphone perspective, it's all very similar. Solo and mute buttons, most of which most people wouldn't use a lot of. But there's this button up here, which is a big difference. And again, it's a bit niche. The best use case I could find for this is you're a podcast producer. A mate of mine, Ralph, would probably love this. So you're not the host of the show. You're not even on the show. So you're there to help produce the show. And that's where this button comes in. You as the producer can be microphone one. So you can have maybe a set of headphones, right? So you're using a headset and mic, and you're there to listen in and produce the show. You might be even slightly in a separate room or behind another barrier. But you can talk, you can not be on, so you could be muted, obviously. But while you're muted, so your microphone never gets recorded, so you've got 3 guests, a host and 2 guests, for example. They've all got cans connected here. They've all got microphones connected here. You can press talkback, not be recorded, and talk to them. So wrap this one up. It's been 5 minutes. The answer is 42. You can be a producer. I think that's very cool. I think that is very, very cool. So that's a feature over and above the RODEcaster. So talkback button. I think the screen is better for an on-the-go podcaster because you can see what's happening with your stings. And there are banks and banks of stings here as well that you can have. So you can have lots of stings. There's plenty that you can do in terms of the audio here from the Tascam. It doesn't really do less than the RODEcaster, but does do just a touch more. Now, let me tell you first up, I think the RODEcaster has better audio processing. Now, I'm not an audiophile, but there's simple things like, I don't know if it's called the gate or what it is, but I just noticed that my low end, like the ambient sound in the room is well catered for here, but not in a clicky way. It doesn't just jump in and out. Whereas on this, I'm getting that. Now, that may be microphone choice by me, maybe a bunch of other things, but I just don't get it. I don't notice it on the RODEcaster. They spent money investing and buying the Aphex brand. So there's built-in audio processing here that I do think is one up over this. But when you go into the settings here of this guy, there's some serious tweaks you can do to manually edit your voice settings. Now, I'm going to plug in my headphones here because I need to listen to what you're about to hear, because there's also some very cool things you can do with your voice. So once again, here we've got 4 headphone options. I'm going to put this in headphone 1. I'm not going to use the mic on these guys, but I can now hear myself. Well, that's good. I sound okay. Well, as good as I'm going to. So I'm mic 1. Now, here on this mixer, I can do some very cool things. Let me see if I can try and bring this into view for you as well. So what I can do is I can have voice settings. So I've got my tones. I can be bright, mid, or deep. I like to be deep just because it makes me feel more masculine. You've got your compressor that you can turn on, and you can have manual adjustments of that, which is excellent. So there's a lot of settings there that you would get in others, but also a little bit more manually tweaked, which is excellent. So let me just show you that for a sample. The manual tweaks there are pretty solid. Everything from gain to threshold, everything. It's all there that you might want. But here's where it gets fun, and this could be very cool if you're thinking of podcast ideas. Effect settings. So what I can do is I can go reverb. Hello. Welcome to this big empty room. It's a little bit wetter in here than it should be, and now it's back to dry. We can make this room, what's this? I can make this a small room. It's just a small echo. It's just a little bathroom. So you can have fun with this. You could create content here that, other people aren't doing, or they're doing in post. Very, very cool. Or a deeper effect for a medium room. Let's just turn that one off. So we're back to normal now. And then let's go into the voice changer. Oh my God, I love this.
And you can see that in real time, it's so off-putting listening to yourself. In fact, it's probably easier if it's so off-putting. It's so crazy. So you can apply this to any one of the channels. So, I don't know, you're fine. Let's try it in a minute with the phone. But
Basically, I can make it chipmunk style, and as you can see, it's happening on the fly. I'm talking, I'm hearing this weird chipmunk in mode.
here's what I can do. Full hacker.
Or you've got your mid-range, just adding a bit of, who is that behind that voice? That's pretty cool, right? Now let's just see whether I can assign this now. Let's do this on the TRRS. So I always use the TRRS for phone calls because just think it's kind of easier than Bluetooth. I think it's more reliable than Bluetooth. Yeah. So I'm just going to dial the St. George Bank randomly, okay? And let's see what happens. So audio enhancement, talk music. No, you can't. So you can't change, you can't do it on a TRRS line. You can only do it on a mic line from what it looks like there. So voice settings, all you've got control of. Let's try that again. So you've got voice setting and effect settings on the 4 mics, but on the USB, the smartphone, and the Bluetooth, you've only got the voice settings. So you can make them deep, mid, or whatever you like. As I say, I prefer pretty much I prefer using the TRRS connector. I think it's better quality audio. I think it's better for phone calls. I think it's better for the person at the other end as well. On the back here, Now, this is critical. There's also some differences, and I think improvements. The same twist-in power connector, so that's not going anywhere, which is awesome. Same number of headphone connectors, same, line level outputs. But over here, you've got your TRRS, but you've also got a left and right. So you've got standard jack left and right, so you can actually have an input that way. And you've also got here your mics, but they're I don't know what they're called, but they're multi. So you can actually use plug-in mics as well. You don't have to use the XLR style. You can use your kind of 6.5 mil or whatever they're called mic connections as well. So that's probably not highly relevant, but I think it's still an advantage. But I will say also they don't have your click. So on the RODEcaster, you've got your latch, which latches your microphones in. You don't have that on the Tascam. They're tiny little things. Oh, one other thing. Back here. Things to do while we're recording. Back here, full-size SD card. Full-size SD card as opposed to micro SD on the RODEcaster. So look, head-to-head, like for like, they do a great thing. They both do it very well. If I was Rode, I would change that screen. I would take a few hints from here and put them in there. I think the effect names, because I'm often recording while I'm trying to find out what sound pads are on. Stuff like that. Little things could be done. On the next version, I would go bigger screen, just to make that a bit more dynamic. I probably would just reduce the size of the faders and put a bigger screen. That's what I would do. The number one reason you would probably choose the Tascam over the RODEcaster is if you don't currently use Adobe Audition. If you're using Audacity as your audio editor, you are living in the freeware world, it's a great program. Don't get me wrong. It does the job. But if you want a multi-track edit, this thing is phenomenal. So you probably can't see it here, but there's a multi-channel edit here on this computer. Came directly from this. So you record in multi-channel, you USB connect to your computer, and then with the Tascam included, free included software, you simply import the file. You choose from the list that it reads from here, and it imports. Now, it took me a little while to work that out, I'll be honest. But it was more about understanding that when I start a new project, that's when I choose the file. I thought it was kind of a software that was an interface to the device, whereas it's a little bit more reading from the device and pushing back to the device. Once you get that kind of understanding of how it works, I think it goes really, really well. I love the design of it. You've got your headphone input here or output here, but it's also, I believe, TRRS. So I think it might also act as a microphone input as well if you choose to use it that way. I don't know why you would, but you could. They're nice dials. They're a little bit looser. They feel a little bit cheaper to me. I like the fact that on a Rode, you got the kind of clicks all the way around the dial, whereas this is very loose and fluid. I won't play them loudly, but these buttons are a bit harder than the RODEcaster. So they're a harder push, whereas these ones up here, these are very, I don't know, flimsy, which is actually good because you want these to be very easy to press. So that's good. Love the talkback button. These I could give or take, doesn't really matter. You've got the same options on each of your sounds to latch or play or repeat, whatever you want. It's got everything that this has, just a little bit more. Do I prefer the quality of the RODEcaster? Yeah, I think I do. I think I love the build of this. I love the materials of this. While it's not cheap, it looks great. It is plasticky. This is also made in Australia. So, as an Aussie, I absolutely adore the fact that Rode is doing that locally. But you can't take that away from Tascam. They're a global company, as Rode is, but we just happen to be lucky to live in Australia. Price-wise, they're head-to-head. You're going to pay a touch more for this. Consider yourself paying for the software. And that's really what it comes down to. Honestly, if you are not a big software head and you don't have editing software, it may be worth the investment in this just to get the Tascam software. But otherwise, either is a great buy. Whatever you do, this will up your podcasting game. I'm glad to see products like this in the market. I hope to see many more. I think what we need next is a smaller version of both. I think we need something that's just 2 mic channels and a headphone in or a phone in, TRRS maybe. Just keep it simple, this big. Replace my old Zoom recorder with something that's real on the go. Like we do take this with us places. I will take this to the United States and use this at CES. I'd prefer to take something smaller. So hopefully that's where the market is going. Podcasting's not disappearing, so we're probably going to have that luck. The Tascam Mixcast 4 is available now in Australia. As I said, $8.99 is what I've seen it at online. The RRP is $1,049. got an unbelievably great product, absolutely head-to-head with Rode, and probably tips them over the edge just on that software feature. So, yeah, a wonderful product, well worth your consideration. The Tascam Mixcast 4. More details, photos at EFTM.com. But I've told you it all right here.